Hello, I'm Dale Matthews. I'm joined by Mike Jones. Mike Jones, welcome. I'm happy to be joined by you.
Okay. I'm ODF and W.
That's
I
my sense of humor.
yes, I you'll have to explain that to me.
ODF and W.
Yeah.
It's Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Oh, okay. All right.
Right.
Or F and wildlife.
Yes, that's right. That's why I wrote it that way.
Wow,
That's
man.
my sense of humor, not Mike's. ODF and W. Okay. You may not know this. We alluded to it last night. In fact, we said it straight out. Why hide our light under a bushel? We're saying it straight out to you. The Josephine County, hanging on by its fingernails, has now decided to take on the task of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. $130,000 this year, and it looks like it's going to be at least a 5-year contract. That part we didn't tell you because we looked over the contract very carefully for this water quality testing. And Mike has said several times we don't think that the water shouldn't be tested. Is why is Josephine County taking this on alone and taking over part of the responsibility of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife? That's why ODF and W. So proof behind this. I have the contract right in front of me here. And so I'm going to call this thing up and I'm going to tell you what we've discovered in it. You can look this up for yourself. It's just as easy as us doing it. But Exhibit A is called Evans Creek Monitoring Program. It's the scope summary. Listen to this. The planned 5-year, see, they said, oh, it's just a year, it's just a year. Don't worry, it's just a year. We can stop it anytime. The contract says, we're going back to what the contract says again. The contract says the planned 5-year Evans Creek monitoring program is to be conducted by Shannon and Wilson. It's not going to be conducted by Grants Pass Water Lab. They're subbing it out. And that'll be located in Jackson County. The study will be located in Jackson County.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this to Bill Meyer on the show this morning. Every Monday morning, he has me come on regularly and talk about it. And I said, well, this is our county is going to be doing the work of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife in Jackson County with a study extending along Evans Creek from 1 mile above the former Fielder Dam to 3 miles below the former Fielder Dam on the confluence with the Rogue River. What do you think about that so far?
Well, I think that nothing matters about this to Josephine County until you're talking about what is flowing past places where we are sucking it up and distributing it on farmland or pumping it out to city residents for their consumption. So why all of this is taking place up there? Because listen, you could have alarming looking stuff that's happening up there, and once it joins into a much larger body of water like the Rogue River and gets spun around and whatever, by the time it gets down here, it may be much more benign looking. And listen, I'm not trying to poo-poo this situation, but Mother Nature's been around washing stuff out of the mountains for a long time. And
of course, this was dammed up by humans, but it could have been dammed up by beavers or even ducks.
Right. Yes, of course. And there's so in any event, this is going to be coming down the river, whatever the circumstance is. So I really don't understand what is it you're trying to find out. We already know that there's contaminants there. We already know that. Okay, so let's say that we lock it down, we determine exactly what the contaminants are. Then what? Then what do you do? And do we still yet know what those contaminants are as they manifest themselves down here by the bridge that's behind my head?
No. And what's more, not only do we not know, the county has just signed a 1-year contract for the whole thing, and we don't even know what's there. 1
Well,
year.
and Dale went to the city council there and asked them about saying, "Hey, listen, here's what's being said over here." So
Right.
we're going to find out what they think about it.
Okay, so the couple important points before we go to that little video. When I say that we're going to be doing the job of the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife, ODF and W, what they plan on doing on this 1 year, on this 5 year plan, it's a contract now for 1 year, but it's supposed to extend for 5, unlike what they told us. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're talking about closer to $600,000. 600,000.
Yeah, and that does it spell out in the contract that it's $130,000 per annum?
It says 130,000 for the first year, and it
Mm.
says it's a 5 year contract.
Mm.
Okay, so
Okay.
I had to do my own math on that, but that's really not that hard.
Yeah.
So the point is, well, let's see, that's 5 years, 500, and then yeah, $650,000 contract. We don't know what's there, and we're taking it on alone instead of waiting for anyone else to sign up. We're taking it on completely by ourselves.
Yeah.
Instead of the feds getting involved with this because they never did an environmental impact study. They didn't. I mean, you had to environmental impact study to walk across the river in rubber boots. Okay, so and the state's not involved so far. That's what they said. This is what the commissioner said. Can they ever be trusted? Well, and then the city, Cheryl Walker said more than once, the city's not interested. They're just not interested. This is what she said. So why are we footing the bill alone on this when we're using it, according to the commissioners, to put water into a couple of our county parks?
Right, and I mean, there is a case that to be made that some of this is going to be picked up by Grants Pass Irrigation District and pumped out throughout their system and then used on crops or whatever. But here's the deal: I called them today, and they said we don't have anything to do with what's going on with the Fielder Dam thing, so we have no comment.
The city told you that?
No, this is the Grants Pass Irrigation District.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that means they don't care or they just don't want to talk to me about it or what. But they said that, we don't have anything to do with that. Well, I would assume that you're aware of it and that there's, I mean, so anyway, that's their statement up to now.
Well, if I was those kind of people, I wouldn't want to talk to anyone from the media either.
Yeah.
We're not those kinds of people. We're the opposite.
Listen, listen. If you're one of these people, like you're a city councilor and you're going, why are these guys talking about how the city doesn't care and whatever? Because we have, once again, it is left to supposition about this kind of stuff because you guys ain't talking about it.
Well,
okay?
Cheryl Walker did. Cheryl Walker was very clear at least 2 times that the city is not interested. Now, can she be trusted? No, but that's what she said, and that's what I told I don't know what the truth is. Maybe they're intimately involved. Ooh, with Cheryl Walker. But the point is that she says they're not interested. So that's what I told them. One more thing, but I keep wanting to say this. This group that's doing this subcontractor to Grants Pass Water Lab is also going to be studying the fish and insects.
Mm-hmm.
Insects.
Okay, and listen, I understand that you might want to study how this dam removal has affected fish right in the area. I don't know if you're going to pick up any of that downstream. And then again, hey, this is the question you guys probably don't want to answer is once you do determine that there's something going on and it can be detected downstream. Okay, then what?
But Mike,
isn't that nice?
Also, let's suppose you got unhealthy fish or unhealthy insects. Right. Let's suppose that they're all unhealthy. What effect does that have on Josephine County parks?
Yeah, or the water in Grants Pass. I mean, really, they ought to confine their interest to those things because those are the things that are affecting. And I would imagine that the contract would look entirely different if that's all it was about.
And we're testing in Jackson County. Is Jackson County interested? I've not heard anyone say anything about it.
Well, and and as I presumed here before, because and I have to presume because nobody is talking about. Listen, you know what?
They got their money. Why would they talk to us? Why would
Yeah,
they
but
talk to the citizens at all? They already got their money. They don't have to ask us permission. They just do it.
I'm talking about the city water department people. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that that this has been in the news. You
Yeah.
know that it's out there. So why don't you stop guys like me from supposing what it is that you might be thinking by just blurting it out? That would really be helpful because that way we don't have to go, well, Grants Pass appears to not be interested. Well, we can only presume that because you haven't said anything
But Cheryl has.
about this.
She was
But
quite
Cheryl
clear.
has, and so Cheryl has, and we listen. You know what? We give her a certain amount of credibility. She is inside the government. She says that the city's not interested. We also saw Keith Heck saying they're not interested. We saw him say that they're not interested. They're not doing nothing. Okay, so do we take that as real? Or do you guys want to step up to the microphone and counter their statement and tell us what you're doing? Okay, maybe you'd like to do that.
Once again, at least a couple of the counselors looked very surprised when I told them this. Now, okay, so leading into the clip, for the past 6 meetings I believe it's 6 meetings of the Grants Pass City Council, they have a rule that says they can't dialogue with you. It's their rule. And they have a rule that they're not going to interrupt you. That this is their rule. And I don't think they should make snide comments because, they're not going to comment. Except every time when I step up now, last 6 meetings, the mayor has decided he's going to say something snide or try to dialogue with me or try to say something to me after I sit down. Sound familiar? And so I stood up to say something, as I often do, that's about the county and also about the city. Now, the 3 people that preceded me, maybe you don't care about this, but I'm telling you about it anyway. You get this for free. The 4 people that preceded me all said something about the county and about other places and about the city. When I stood up to speak, suddenly the mayor now has decided it's no longer okay for me to talk about the county. Everybody else can, but not me. That sound familiar too? And this happened on exactly the same day that Keith Hicks said, well, if you don't consider us to be, leaders worth following or whatever he said, then you don't get to speak. Really, I wasn't saying bad words or anything. I wasn't yelling at anybody like he's done. I wasn't calling anybody names like he did. He just doesn't like the fact that I disapprove of what they're doing. What he really doesn't like is Sandy Casanelli and I were the ones that turned state evidence that got them in trouble. So here I am speaking, and you determine for yourself if you think I'm being the ultimate in rudeness, as Rika Brown puts it. We need to stop Dale Matthews because what he says is evil. You decide whether you think this is evil. Yes, Rika Brown really said that. We can play it back for you again if you insist. He must be stopped. And
I'll put up the email address while we're playing.
Yes, and I believe you can take on City Hall, and when they're treating you badly, it's your responsibility, in my personal opinion, to say so. And he's not treating me fairly. And he told me once before, we're not going to stop you from saying anything that you want to. Why would they? I mean, it's 3 minutes. Talk about black helicopters if you want to. Who cares? It's only 3 minutes out of your life. He's decided to try to trip me up, as often happens with Keith Heck. Oh, adjust your microphone. Oh, your shoe's untied. Oh, don't forget your pants. And would you just shut up and let me talk, please? Okay, Mike, let me talk. So it starts off with me having a little tussle with the mayor. He didn't wait long enough to see if I had anything to say about the city, and so it's in 2 parts. You'll see.
Dale Matthews. I live in Grants Pass. So this morning at the Josephine County Commissioners meeting, last week, I mentioned something about research that Sandy Casanelli and I did.
It's their
We
audio,
turned
sorry.
in state's evidence to the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and they found that the commissioners have been violating the law. Now they proceed to the penalty phase. The commissioners were not happy with this. They
Could you
weren't
tell us
happy
something about the city?
No, sir. They weren't happy with pointing out what had happened to them. They weren't happy with journalists reporting about them. It's ended up in the Washington Times. It was on the AP. So PFAC decided that I would no longer be allowed to speak at county commissioners meetings.
Dale, let's
What's
talk
the
about
problem?
the city of Grants Pass. I don't want to hear about the commissioners meeting.
You've not stopped me on this in the past. Is this a new rule you just made up?
No, it's one that I'm asking you to comply with tonight.
Only tonight? Or from now on?
Well, you're eating up your own time.
This is part of now a coordinated effort to try to shut up people? Because
No,
you
I'm
allowed it
asking
in
you
the
to
past.
talk about city
You
business.
said that you don't dialogue with
Please
us, but
talk
you're
about
violating
city
your rule
business.
now for 2 months in this program, this one, tonight. Every time I get up to speak, this is what you do. You try to dialogue or you make a snide remark. It's not polite.
I'd like you
Okay.
to finish, please.
Yes, well, I'm about halfway done. So what we found with the commissioners is they've been saying that the Grants Pass City Council is not interested in doing water testing that comes down from field or dam since it's been taken out. Not interested? This is what they're telling the public, is that you're not interested. And the county has just decided it's going to spend well over $100,000 to do testing for the county of Josephine and also for Grants Pass citizens, because they say that you're not interested, that maybe you will join on board later. Listen, that water goes first to Grants Pass city residents. Secondarily, it goes to parks of Josephine County. Why would the county be interested in assuming this cost from the general fund when they say that you're not interested? You might want to know that. See, that has something to do with Grants Pass. So maybe in your protected time at the end, you could talk about, Mr. Mayor, your sales tax, the Fowler sales tax, and also talk about how you've changed the rules now that people can only speak about Grants Pass or you're going to interrupt them. It's part of a pattern that's happening all over the county.
Hey, don't fuss with me. You know, really. This is a brand new rule? Really? Is it a coincidence it happened on the same day as Keithek? So what did I just say? I said, the county says, the county says,
Right.
the county says. Okay, let's see what Roy Lindsay said during his protected time. Roy Lindsay, the rest of the show is about Roy.
That I hate to use the word lie, but that's what it is. That Grants Pass is not interested in water testing from the results of the destruction of Fielder Dam.
Now, do you think he's talking about Cheryl Walker as a liar? It's one of his great political allies, or is he talking about me?
Oh no, he's talking about you, but I mean, this is another one of those situations where, why don't you just listen to the question? The question is, and the statement was, they are saying, this is what they are saying, and we have the videotape of that, them saying that. So this is it's indisputable. This is one of those things that the debate really is over on this.
Well, remember, this is the same Roy Lindsay that said at the Oath Keepers meeting that I went to, when I said that Mark Bartholomew, the city attorney, had said certain things in court. Roy Lindsay said he didn't say that. And I said, no, it's on tape. No, it's not. So Roy's taking what I said, this Roy Lindsay. I like the sound Fowler sales tax, but it's really the Roy Lindsay sales tax, okay? Because he's still a believer in this thing. And what he's doing is he's saying, well, this is a lie. No, what I tell you is not a lie. I mean, it might be a lie, but I'm not the one that's lying here, Roy. Go ahead. Continue playing what he's got here. This is interesting.
I had a long conversation yesterday with Jason Kennedy, who is the manager of the water treatment plant. And I knew that it was a concern, and we had a very in-depth conversation. I majored in chemistry in college, and so some of the terminology that he used was very clear to me. And I assure you, from my perspective as a city councilor and as a citizen of this community, that the water treatment department is very concerned about the impact that the destruction of Fielder Dam might have on this. And they are on top of it. And as I recall, they're even doing some additional testing now and then to make sure that the water quality meets national standards.
Okay. First I've ever heard of it. And
Yep.
you know what? How come there isn't a story that says what he said? Perfect. Why don't you say that to the public? What, you don't want the public even thinking about this? You don't. Oh, let's not start a panic.
Well, and let's test it now and then.
Well, I'm totally fine. Listen, he says they're very concerned. They spoke in terms only recognizable to somebody who majored in chemistry. So
Yeah, but he majored in chemistry back when there were only 6 elements on the periodic table.
Okay, but the bottom line is that, listen, we've been speculating about this for what, a month now, when we're talking about this topic.
And it's not just us. It's a big subject of conversation all over the place.
Right. And anytime you mention the Fielder Dam and what went on there on Facebook, all of a sudden you got a thread with 100 comments in.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, and you got people involved like what's his name with Oath Keepers?
Joseph Rice.
Joseph Rice. Now, Roy Lindsay's in Oath Keepers, and he's heard the Oath Keepers talking about it. He's sitting there in the meeting in order for him to say, no, that's not on videotape. And so it's no surprise to Roy that people are talking about this subject. Why is this the first time he said anything?
Well, and listen, this isn't all on Roy Lindsay. I mean, there are certain people who are controlling, the story about Fielder Dam and the water quality and things of that nature getting out to the public. The only place that we have heard anything about it is in the little back room.
That's correct.
And on this program.
Right.
And
That's it. Yeah, and Facebook, right? But it's speculation by the people on Facebook. I repeated back to them what Cheryl Walker has been saying about them. As you pointed out, Keith Heck has agreed with her, and this is what they're saying. So don't say that, imply that I'm the liar. Roy Lindsay, buddy, really.
You're not being treated fairly here by Roy Lindsay. And this is an uncomfortable thing. I have a class with Roy Lindsay, and he seems like a nice guy in there and everything. Listen, Roy, if you're watching this, I don't want to blame any of this stuff on you, but the bottom line is you're calling the wrong strike. You're calling the wrong ball here, because Dale didn't say you guys don't care. He said they say you don't care. And they've made this statement definitively that, hey, these guys don't care. That's why we're doing this. So if you have something to say that changes that story, please come out with it. Okay.
And by the way, I'm so sorry about the extremely poor quality of this video. You can hear him sort of. He sounds like he's in a box of his own making. But the video is awful. It's the best that we can get out right now out of the city council because of David Reeves. We had beautiful.
Actually, I've got a better way of capturing. We're going to do it from them will be better.
All right, so we're going to post it in a much better way after this show. Go ahead and let Roy finish what he has to say, and it's kind of cut off abruptly, but go ahead. It's a complete sentence.
And so I highly disagree with the statement this city does not care about water treatment. That's one of the things that is
Take it up with
involved
Cheryl.
in keeping the people safe, is having good water quality and waste treatment. And I find it objectionable, wrong, and a lie to say otherwise.
Good. Storm into their next
As
meeting.
you can tell, I'm on my high horse, and I apologize for that, but I think we've got to start to stand up to these lies.
Yeah,
and say,
good
"That
idea.
is false. It is not true."
Good
And I
idea.
commend Jason for the work that he's doing.
Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
but he's not talking about her. He's talking about standing up to my lies.
Well, and I'm just telling you, Roy, redirect, listen, you object to that? Do you object to it just as much, regardless of who is saying it? If that is true, and it should be, then take your righteous indignation and march over to the little back room the next time they have a meeting and come in there and say, listen, I want to make it heard. And we'll catch that on videotape and it'll appear on this program. Okay. So if you're true on this, if you're, if you feel real strongly about that and it isn't just Dale Matthews that you're pissed at, then take it to the right people. Okay. Because they are saying, both Keith Heck and Cheryl Walker, they're both saying this. The city doesn't care. The city is not interested in doing this testing. You got a beef with that statement. Your problem is not with Dale Matthews. Your problem is with the commissioners. Comprendez-vous?
Good foreign language there, Mike.
Well,
Look, the other thing is, as I mentioned, Roy Lindsay completely disputed this next piece of videotape. You watch it for yourself, but keep in mind, Roy's going to tell you you're not seeing this or hearing it. Go ahead.
And I've got to tell this story because it happened.
No. Sorry, that's the wrong one.
Just before.
oh,
It's the Grants Pass sales tax one in the courthouse, in the courtroom.
oh, gotcha. Okay,
Right.
here we go.
The city can revoke the levy or the utility fee or the sales tax, for that matter, at any time. The city council, as a matter of fact, could have implemented this the sales tax without other people. However, I think it would be politically difficult to do so. They say also, I believe that it would mislead voters if we were to say that the sales tax is permanent. Because again, it could be revoked.
Now, did you see Roy Lindsay in the background? He was in the room.
I didn't see him in the background, but I did know that he was there.
Yeah. So, okay. So Roy Lindsay then he's in the room. He hears about this video. We've mentioned the video several times, and his answer to you, the citizens of Grants Pass and Josephine County, is what you just saw. You didn't see it because it doesn't exist. That's Roy Lindsay. Now, maybe he seems like a good guy here or there, but he's telling you, just as strongly as the commissioners have, when we have a videotape, we go to the effort of, we recorded it with 2 cameras. We go to the effort of being there. I'm sitting there. It's a lawyer and a half. I don't think the other guy did such a great job, but okay. I'm sitting there making our argument about this thing. You know what kind of judge we had, okay? That guy's not up for re-election, but Lindy Baker is the judge. And he says it never happened. So who are you going to believe? Roy Lindsay, city councilor, or your own eyes? Well, he's not happy with this. Well, it goes against everything he's been fighting for. You can't have somebody saying, city attorney or not, that we don't need you. It's politically expedient to do it without you. We could do it anytime we wanted to. That's terrible. I didn't know any of that kind of stuff. Well, Roy Lindsay, not only did you not know that, also, he doesn't want you to know it, and it never happened. Let's erase history. That's Roy Lindsay.
And this is the sad thing, and that, he's probably going to have a problem with us for having aired this, and it isn't. You're looking at the wrong focus here. We're trying to get the news out. You may not like Dale's delivery, and listen, I understand some people find him abrasive. Okay, and that's the issue. And
well, I don't like liars, if that's what you mean. Yes,
well,
I'm not happy
they,
with liars.
yeah, they don't like his delivery or whatever. And listen, if you want to take Dale to task on that, go ahead, but don't call him a liar because he said something. He just relayed news to you. You know,
Okay.
that's illegitimate here. So
now
let's get this
on this
straight.
whole sales tax thing, and on following the will of the people, which the city councilors, we told you about this, have been patting themselves on the back. They haven't learned any lesson. They've been talking about how they've done the will of the people. The will of the people? Are you insane? Why? And the people asked us to put this on the ballot. No, they didn't. But they're telling each other that at the end of this meeting. Okay, so, and we can play back the tape of them doing that. We already told you what they said, but we'll let you hear for yourself that this is what they're saying. That's unbelievable. Well, okay, we'll play the tape. But here's what Roy Lindsay said when he was running for office. Keep in mind now that this is Roy Lindsay trying to get elected, and what he said about making sure that you have the public behind you. Go ahead.
If Measure 91 passes, the only way it can be banned in Josephine County and Grants Pass is if the people initiate a measure to do that.
You're right.
And so it's sort of a moot point as to whether I think the people need to be the ones to say whether they want it or not. And if 91 passes, they will have the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Roller.
Oh, geez. That's the wrong clip, but that's okay.
I oppose Measure 91.
No, it's all wrong. It's wrong clip. It's just, well, that can happen sometimes. He was talking about Measure 191. The promise that he made was, listen, what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to be pushing for something that doesn't have support of the people. Sorry, but the wrong clip. But the audio wasn't too bad. I'm not going to be pressing for something that doesn't have support of the people. And the reason why I want to be a counselor is I intend to represent the will of the people. So if that's what he had said, it would have matched better with the theme of tonight. But he hasn't done that. And now he's saying that, this was all the will of the people. You know, we really just had to do this for the people. Really? Okay, so here's another clip from Roy Lindsay. And in this one, he's talking about, let me be sure that it's this, right. Oh, right. This is the one where he's explaining how he did a poll. We talked about this last night, how he was involved in a Chamber of Commerce poll, and he was finding people that were saying, well, listen, I don't want to listen. Okay, this is important. It's important. I'm going to slow down just for a second here. He's painting the people who were against the sales tax as people who didn't want to listen to the facts. He walked in and they said no automatically. It didn't matter what the subject was. They were just going to say no. We've heard this before from the commissioners. Why they just say no and they don't know anything about it? One, that's really insulting. These are business owners. Well, they still said no. No matter what, they were saying no.
Yeah, it just presumes everybody's stupid except for you.
Yes. Now, let's listen to the way that he describes the business owners and their reaction to this and how unreasonable they all are for not listening to Roy Lindsay. And keep in mind when he's talking about the mathematics of this, that he was mathematically proven wrong because 80% of the people said no. Let's let Roy explain it in his own words.
A few weeks ago, I was a participant in the Chamber of Commerce survey downtown where we went from business to business. And I was given the opportunity to walk along G Street and walk into various businesses and ask a series of 5 questions. And the bottom one was, would you favor a sales tax or something like that? And immediately, it was no. And I said, do you know what it is? Do you know how it would operate? Do you know what it involves? And they said, no, we just don't.
Now, wait a minute. You mean to tell me that he's saying that these business owners Their first reaction was no, we don't want a sales tax. And when he said, do you know what it's about? They said no. That's just not true. Look, if you want to talk about a lie, that's just not true. That's painting the other side in black and white. He's the white and they're the black. He's not racially, shut up. And he's got the facts and they don't even want to listen. They're not even going to listen. They just say no, unreasonably no, without any logic behind it. I don't believe that, Mike.
Yeah, well, listen, this is not new though for public officials. Unfortunately, there's a lot of them that fall into this vein that, you know, they know better than you do. And, you know, I'm sorry that you're so stupid that you don't understand. Roy Lindsay is not alone in this at all. You have, there's a lot of public officials that feel the same way. Listen, Cheryl Walker, nobody is got her nose, her elevation is much higher than all of ours. We all know this. This is standard operating procedure. I'm not shocked by it at all. But it should be made clear to him and others that espouse this sort of attitude that, maybe you should do more listening.
But these people, what he's saying is the people that he visited, that he was polling, I know how he was polling them like this. The people that he was polling had no good reasons. They didn't want to hear it. They had already made up their mind. No good reasons. Roy, are you insane? No good reasons to oppose. He's saying they didn't. They just, no. Do you know what it's about? He is trying to tell us that he asked them, do you know what it's about? And their answer was no, but I still don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't.
Right.
Man,
doesn't that tell you everything you need to know?
About him, yes.
Well, no, about the sales tax situation.
No, that's just not possible.
What I'm saying is, listen,
we don't know what it's about, and we don't care because we're uneducated and we're going to stay that way.
Okay, listen, they should have gotten from when they walked into everybody and them having an immediate negative reaction to it that this is a loser.
Well, that's the other part of the equation. That's right.
Well, the reason why they didn't have that they didn't pick up that news is because they weren't there taking a poll.
No.
They were there pushing an agenda. You wanted this. You want more money for government, and in your rationale, you have that it's for the betterment of the people. This is for their benefit.
Okay, but my main point on this, I agree with you 100%, but I think the main point is he's telling us now that the people who are against this are fools that don't want to know, that already have made up their mind, and he's the one with the information. Apparently that didn't work so well, Roy. And he's trying to tell people the information. They don't even want to hear it. I don't believe that. And anyone who says that about her, he shouldn't be in office. Not if you're going to have that attitude. But go ahead, play the rest of what he had to say.
Well, listen, if he believes that,
yeah.
If he really does believe that now, he should be railing on the people. He should be saying, you guys are so stupid. We gave you the right information and you weren't even smart enough to take it and vote for this thing. That's what he should be doing if he really believes what he said.
Just like Cheryl Walker said on the junk ordinances, these people are in favor of rats. That's a paraphrase. And this, Roy Lindsay walked out of there with a 50-50. Because he imparted his knowledge to them and they became educated whether they wanted to or not. Remember, he said when they walked in, they said no, and they didn't really want to know. Okay.
And in reality, they just wanted to tell him something that would make him feel better so they could get him out of the store.
Well, here's his interpretation of what happened. Give us the mathematics, Roy Lindsay.
And then I took the time to explain to them what their role was, what it did, how much it was, and the fact that it spread out and also was able to garner some resources from people outside of the city, also garner some resources from the tourists who are used to paying sales tax. And after I finished, 50% said yes of the people that I talked to. And some would say, I don't care. I don't care what the information is. I just say no.
I don't care. I just say no.
And so I think that given what Jim is saying, that provided the proper information, the correct information, the broad information as to what the resolution is and what the sales tax does, I think that that carries more weight than just a flat no by business.
Apparently
I
not.
think that many of them just react rather than understand.
Oh, man!
Understanding, they say, oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, maybe they understand what's about to happen to them and they don't like it. And so they say, hey, I'm not interested in that. And you know what? Why don't you just take their answer at that? Because that's your job. You're the people's
Because his
representative.
job, as he sees it, is to characterize them as unthinking robots that aren't even going to listen to the facts as he took his time to explain it to him. You know what, Roy, I've really got some place where you should spend some time. And it's not even in this country. Okay, so now, has he learned any kind of lesson from this? No. And here's the second part of that bad-looking video. Sorry about that. Here's Roy Lindsay explaining how he had a discussion with somebody about this whole sales tax thing, and listen to the way he characterizes the person with whom he had the discussion. Go ahead, Mike.
And I've got to tell this story because it happened to me last fall, just before the November election balloting last year. I met an individual at outside of a meeting hall in the parking lot, and we got to talking, and the subject of the levy came up that was on the ballot in November. And he said, I'm against it, no new taxes. And I said, well, what about seniors? They need some help and support and protection. He says, I don't care, it's their responsibility, no new taxes.
I don't care.
I said, what about children? They need some support now and then to keep them safe. He says, I don't care. It's the parent's responsibility, no new taxes.
Is your BS meter pegging?
They're abused.
Yeah.
And we've had more than one presentation that I know of about child abuse and sex trafficking of youth. And he said, I don't care, it's the parent's responsibility.
This was a couple of nights ago. A couple of afternoons ago.
What about kids that are abused by their parents? He says, I don't care. It's the parents.
I don't care, is what the guy said to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I just walked away and I said, we'll never agree on anything.
Yeah, that's right, buddy. Guy just said, I don't care.
And was he connecting that to this situation with the sales tax?
That they don't want to be educated. They already made up their mind. He's offering to give them all the facts. They don't care. Well, what about the children? I don't care. What about the children in relationship with parents? It's children twice. I don't care. What about children who are abused by their parents? I don't care. You know what? The BS meter is now broken off the chart.
And here, let's put this into perspective. What amount of funding that is realistic in this particular economy right now that you extract out of other people in the way of property taxes would address any one of those things that he was talking about?
Mike has got a really good point here, but my main point was we've got a city councilor up there just a couple of nights ago that was saying that the people who oppose the property tax and the sales tax, they don't have any reasons. Remember, these are the same folks who told us that were calling us the noise that destroys. Not only were we not speaking English, we were just making noise. And all we were doing was destroying things. We're ISIS. Remember those guys coming into the community and spreading hate and discontent? Roy Lindsay is a true believer in that kind of stuff. And he says that if you're against the sales tax, 80%, and if you're against the property tax every time in the last decade, why, not only are you uneducated, you don't even want to hear the truth. That he's taking his time to explain it to you because you say, I don't care about children.
Well, yeah, and I'm amazed by this situation. You don't understand. The last 8 times this has come up in 10 or 12 years, 15 years. This has come up a bunch of times, and it's rejected every single time. What don't you get about that? Maybe, listen, if you believe in the Constitution and the will of the people being the final word, why don't you allow that to be the case?
For the same reason that when the Republican Central Committee took that vote to say we're going to oppose this, Roy Lindsay gave up and gave a long speech and passionate speech about, one, nobody understood the vote. Does that sound familiar? Two, it was an illegal vote. Three, let's reverse this vote. Roy Lindsay, are you an American? What have you learned? Do you know anything about the American system of voting for things?
Well, the point is, listen, you need a little quiet reflection here. If you look at this and people are turning it down 8 or 10 times, listen, you're not going to get your money from the people. They don't want it. They've said no, and they've said no 10 times. Why don't you get that? You need to get that. And in addition to getting that, then you have to know that if for the benefit of the people, you're going to enhance public safety, then you have to start cutting your spending in other areas of government and channel that money to public safety if you care. If you don't, then you just leave things the way they are. But the people have spoken. They said they don't want it. So why don't you just take them at their word? That's American.
Hear his political ally on these kinds of things and see if this attitude about the people from Cheryl Walker sounds a little bit familiar. Last clip.
I just have one thing to say in regards to a comment that was made in regards to withholding funding from public safety. We have never withheld any funding from public safety for any purpose. In fact, when we had extra money come in last year, we gave it to public safety. In fact, I think we gave, it was $500,000. We gave it all to the Sheriff's Department. Didn't even give it to public safety, all went to Sheriff's Department. So the urban legend that goes on out there, the Board of Commissioners withholds money from public safety to punish people is absolutely untrue, because we have that as a high priority. But we also can't let the rest of county government collapse. We have to have that, and I guarantee you, if we spent money for public safety, and I agree with Mr. O'Hara's assessment that this is a bridge to nowhere. We already did this once, people. We gave the public safety, I think it was 435,000 out of the reserve funds for public works, because we were going to get somewhere else later. Well, we've had about 3 levies fail since then. No one's come up with any plan, in spite of our efforts to go out in the community and say, help us, tell us what you want. What will you support? What would you like to see happen? And the answer is always, you figure it out.
No, it's not. What a liar. My gosh. The answer is always, you figure it out. This is the imaginary world of Cheryl Walker, where people are telling her, you figure it out. Nobody's ever said to Cheryl Walker, you figure it out. We don't care.
Yeah, well, and this is funny, because not long after this statement, they did withhold $1 million that they could have given. As a matter of fact, they could have given the sheriff's department as much as $2 million, and they chose not to give them any of it. So what she just said, complete horsepucky. Okay, the first $1 million was from road dollars that they could have spent for rural patrols. The thing everybody wants. The people. And then the second $1 million they weren't even expecting to get. All of a sudden, boom! It dropped on them like a ton of bricks.
And where did it go?
Nowhere. Stayed in the general fund. They're going to spend it on whatever they want to.
And Keith didn't want to answer your question at that meeting. You had asked him straight out, and he said, well, I think that we got to ask somebody else. Let someone else talk. Yes. And there wasn't anybody else.
Right, exactly. Now, listen. There was your opportunity to actually fund public safety.
Yes.
And
But you
from
see-
the similar mindset there of
similar
Roy
mindset.
Lindsay.
You see the similarity between Roy Lindsay saying that the shop owners are saying, we don't want to know. We've already said no. We don't even want to think about it. Don't impart your wisdom to us, you scholar Roy Lindsay. Why, we know that you studied chemistry in school and you want to know all of, and so why don't you tell them we don't even want to know, Roy? And then the guy at outside that meeting, well, no, I don't care. I don't care. That's insulting to the people who I mean, don't you care about kittens? No, I don't care. And then she's saying, well, people are saying you figured out. These are liars. I don't believe that people are saying to them, we don't care, we don't want to know, we don't want you to educate us. Brother, it's insulting. I don't believe it. We ought to run them out of town on a rail. Mike, please moderate the thing I just said.
That would have been the perfect thing to go out on. You blew it. You should have gone. Bing, there it is. There's the last drum beat.